Hey guys, I'm Avi,
Hey, I'm Lecky.
and this is season 1, episode 8. And as you can see, my mo's growing very nicely.
It is.
First week in, so please donate for a good cause. Made some, already had some couple of good donations, but the more the better. So today we're going to be talking about our injuries that we had a chat about. Can you recall what episode?
No, I don't, but we'll have the link.
Yeah. So we're just going to talk about the injuries and how it's progressing along. So Lecky will start us off with the first one.
Yep, so this is a follow-up Q&A from our last Q&A. Top 3 rather.
Yeah.
So we reported on our top 3 injuries that we can recall, and this one will be the management or treatment or how we manage those injuries. And so my first one was a shoulder injury. So my left shoulder, AC joint sprain. It was a high grade one. It kept me out of sport for something like 6 to 8 weeks. And so for the first 2 weeks, I struggled to sleep. Anything where I compressed my shoulders, so I couldn't sleep on my side. I couldn't kind of rest my back up against the chair too comfortably. It was really annoying. So the first 2 weeks was focused on a lot of rest and recovery. So I didn't move my arm too much. I actually had it in the sling for the first probably almost 2 weeks. I was icing it pretty regularly. And then after the first 2 weeks, I actually just did some home rehab based at home because I was still at university at the time. So the following 2 weeks, so from week 2 to week 4, just did some gentle range of movement work. And then finally by week 4 to week 6 to week 8, I did some gentle strengthening work. So just got some muscles working around my delts, got some rotator cuff action to reinflate the muscles to support my AC joint. And then I was confident enough to start throwing the ball around and return to sport soon after that. So 6 to 8 week injury. First 2 weeks I rested, followed by some movement work, then did some strengthening, got good enough to get back into sport. So that's my story of woe for my AC shoulder sprain. And not much fun when you play a collision sport.
Yeah, so my first one was the grade 2 ankle sprain. As I said in the last time we spoke about it, I rehabbed it, came back and injured it again. So that wasn't fun. So still haunts me to this day really, because that was my final season of soccer, because I didn't play soccer after that. Like I played here and there, but not a full season. Just because, I needed to be wrapped up in cotton wool, I suppose. I'm continuously getting injured at the moment as well. So with that ankle injury, so the second time I rolled it was towards the end of the season, and I just got into the party scene, I suppose, and just didn't want to get fit again. And then this next season came around, and I'm like, no, I'll take a year off soccer, and that's been the same issue every year when the season comes around. So I think I found a new hobby, in gym, I suppose, so more into the fitness scene instead of the soccer, because a lot of cardio, you get a bit skinny, because I was very, very skinny back then, but I still play a bit of touch. But overall, my ankles, no issues with ankles since. Here and there, a couple of ankle sprains, like very minor, while running or doing something at touch, but nothing major since then in the ankles, which is good.
When was the last time you sprained your ankle? Like not playing touch at all? Or?
No, it's touch.
So it's been years now.
I still play touch, but would have been last time. Ankle, maybe 2 years.
Okay.
No, actually.
Touch wood?
No, lie. Did it last year when I played.
Is that?
Yeah, when I played Desire at the Seat Games. Yeah, so rolled my ankle. But I think I know what my weakness was. It's goddamn glutes. They weren't firing properly.
It's a work in progress.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's our first updates for our top 3 injuries. My second one, if you remember, just watch the video. It's on the link here for our first top 3 injuries. So my second one was my hamstring. It was a pretty nasty one. It kept me out solidly for 3 months. So for 8 weeks I rehabbed it, and then it took me this following 4 weeks up to month 3 to be confident enough to run. And so same sort of time frames with the AC joint injury. So the first couple of weeks I nursed my hammy, I let it rest, settle down. I actually used crutches because I didn't know what I was doing. I just wanted to offload it, so it was a good way to slow myself down. So I was on crutches for the first 2 weeks. Then I just encouraged some movement. I can finally sit on the loo, and the toilet seat could press up against the hammy and didn't give me any pain anymore, so that was a good sign. So I could bend and straighten the knee, I could bring my knee to my chest, and it wasn't sort of grabbing and zapping my hamstring. And then I started strengthening just at my home-based gym when I was living at home. And then when I felt there was no pain, there was no catching, around week 8, so 2 months of rehab and recovery, I then built up some courage to do some gentle running. Now at the time I didn't know that there was any programming for measured running programs. I just sort of went for a 2K jog just around the area. And by the end of it, it's kind of started to cramp up a little bit, so it was fatiguing. But I sort of rested after that run, give it 2 days, and then run again. Knowing what I know now, I would have encouraged a measured interval running program where it's something that we give quite regularly in the clinic. So it would have been a measured distance of say 100 meters, and it would be measured in the sense that you're only running straight lines and there's no change in direction, and there's a progressive increase and decrease of the acceleration pace. So that running program is implemented at a lot of premier sporting competitions, so that if people get shot down by hamstring injuries, as they're going through their strengthening program, then they're ready to actually start a measured running program. How much is enough? So this running program that we can give you is a specific way to know the signs to look out for if you should stop and ease up, or whether you should continue to push through and then build up your running capacity so that you can have the confidence to return back to sport. So, a lot of the unknowns with running is challenging, because if you play any athletic sport, you want to hit top speed and not be second guessing yourself. And you want to also hit top speed as you're changing direction too. So I think if I had my time again, I probably would have been back to playing sport around week 6 to week 8. But that extra 4 weeks was just because I didn't know what I was doing at the time. And I just sat on it, really. So when you don't know, you don't move, you don't do anything. So it took longer to heal up. So yeah, it's one of those things. Didn't even know what that was.
Right.
Yeah. So
what about the single leg bridges? What were you doing? What hamstring strengthening work were you doing?
I was just doing like bum flicks, so just active knee bending work. I was doing like some bum lifts, so bridges off your back. I was in the gym. You have those cable machines. So I was doing simple things like hamstring curls. So nothing really fancy. Like, again, to jump back in the time machine, I was about 18 or 19. So I was just like first year uni, I think. So didn't know much at physio school. And I didn't actually go and see a professional about it. I sort of just sat on it and Dr. Googled it. So, as we all do.
Alright, so my second injury, I think, was my back. So this was the major one that I've still carry around every now and then. So just had a quick tune up by Lecky just before, actually. Just flared up my more so upper back, not so low back, but yeah. So pretty much still battling through it. It's an ongoing issue that's been on and off. Some days bad, some days good. So, but you get to a point where you sort of realise what aggravates it and what doesn't. But the good thing is, so back then I was told not to do deadlift, squats or anything. So this would have been 2015, and then was doing a bit of rehab, just going back into the clinic, back and forth. Was making progress, but got to the point where I was just sick and tired, I suppose. I was just going in, getting some needles stuck in, and massage and stuff helped. But then I just wanted to play sports and play touch and all that again. Then I started my own strengthening work once I got a bit more knowledge and looked into it, and then then started deadlifting and squatting, and just techniques, everything. So at the moment I'm working on my technique, so I've dropped down the weight again and just focusing on the technique, and you feel a lot better. So when you do like deadlifts and squat, you should not be feeling anything in your low back, so keep that in mind. If you do feel it, that means something's off and something's not working properly, so make sure you get that checked out, otherwise it'll just end up a bit more severe. So that was, so big thing for me was the core and the glutes, and I'm still working on it, doing a lot of activation stuff for it, and it helps a lot. And the McGill Big 3, which we'll probably discuss in a further podcast. But so back. So at the moment it's just a bit tired, I suppose, from trying to get into the bench press position with my personal trainer that I'm getting to work on my technique. It's in that powerlifting, the full arch, and I was just a bit tight, and I had an hour drive back home and just stiffened up. That was on Wednesday, and I've been a bit sore, but I recover a lot quicker now when my back aggravates, because just feel a bit stronger and the body can tolerate a bit more. So which is good. So strength is key. So the stronger you are, I suppose, when you get an injury, you'll probably recover a bit quicker as well compared to someone that's not as strong.
Yeah, and that's interesting. Just touch on maybe the butt wink, the technique that you're going through in programming. That's really interesting.
Yeah, so I do get the butt wink at like the bottom portion of my squat. So if you are getting the butt wink, so it's when you're squatting down and you see that bottom sort of, you're squatting down and it tucks in. So a lot of people say ass to grass or whatever is good, better for the game, or when you want to squat, it's really good, but stay away from that butt wink, because it's not actually good, because it's putting your spine in a lot of pressure. And then just go as deep as your mobility allows. So there's a couple of tests that we do to have a look at your hip range. So like someone like a Celtic hip that doesn't have much range in the hip, they wouldn't go as deep as someone else that has better range. So it's good to test that out and have a look at how far your hip can actually go, because if you're pushing it, that's where you get that butt wink, and it could be happening because you have a mobility issue, or your body doesn't allow it. So make sure you squat only where your mobility allows. So even if you can only get 90 degrees before getting the butt wink, stay there. Otherwise, as soon as you start adding a bit more load, you're just putting compressive forces on your low back, and it ends up really bad. So I'm doing a lot. So I got hip mobility to go there, but my stability in like my glutes and stuff is not as strong in my lower back erector muscles. So I'm doing a lot of work there, and that's helping me decrease my butt wink, and I'm pretty much getting a lot lower since I've started doing that. And yeah, getting no pain in my back and stuff when I squat. It's more so the next injury, which I'll talk about in the next one.
There's a big hint. Yeah. Cool. So my final injury from the last update was concussion. So I described how serious it was and how serious my numerous symptoms were. So memory loss, concentration. I couldn't follow the story of movies and series that I was watching. I forgot my Facebook password. Mean headaches that were throbbing. Couldn't run for 2 years because that jolting of my head, the brain would just bring on symptoms of headaches. And I had behavioural changes. So I'm usually pretty mellow and I was pretty aggressive. My wife Belinda was telling me. So really serious. So with any concussion episode, a lot of it is following a protocol which Rugby Union have been really good. World Rugby have implemented the Blue Card program. And that system is just to protect players and the long-term welfare of these brain type injuries, which is an acute brain injury. So for me personally, when I sustained a couple of these concussions, but when I had the real bad one, I had almost 2 weeks of active physical and mental rest. So I copped the knock on the Saturday. I think I had the 3 days off, Monday to Wednesday off work, and I just stayed home, tried to sleep and just rest up. Didn't read any books, tried not to watch too much telly and muck around on my phone. And that, I'd like to think, helped a lot. I also started to look at anything with my own self-education, anything that could help reduce inflammation. So the response to an injury, so if I was to give Avi a big punch in his arm, it'll bruise, and the response to the bruising is inflammation. So if I bruise the old brain in the cranium, there'll be a response to that injury will be inflammation. And so the problem is with inflammation and with bruising, like if I keep punching Avi in the arm, and that bruise won't heal as quickly as it should, because it's always getting that repeated trauma. So if I'm doing things to the brain that causes the repeated trauma, then the inflammation will always be hovering around, and that's not good, number one. And number two, if there's other mechanisms of inflammation, like having poor sleep, or I'm really big on the food side of things, so if your gut health is not responding really well to the food that you're eating, then the natural response from your gut, which is highly vascular, there's a lot of blood supply to your intestines, if there's something in there that it doesn't like, it starts the inflammatory process to break that food down, then you get systemic inflammation. So the way I like to think about it is, say if you got an arthritic elbow, it's like a little flame that's burning away, and if you eat something naughty and it upsets your guts, gets inflamed, then that arthritic elbow will flame up and get worse. Okay.
And saying that, like you said, with the gut health, so I found couple of research articles that I tagged Lecky in the other day in regards to so they're actually doing a lot of research in how a gut can actually give you arthritis if you're not eating the right foods. So gut health's very, very big, and Lecky's been honing on that for a while. But I think the research is actually coming in to support him and backing that up. So keep your eyes peeled on that. So if you do get if you feel a bit afraid as we all get older, get arthritic changes, just have a look at what you eat. So the gut stuff's very important. So Lecky's not just talking a bit of gibberish.
Yeah, it can sound hocus pocusy. So with the gut health stuff, a lot of it comes into different pathways, and I don't want to dive too deep into that, but the response to injury is inflammation. So anything that can reduce inflammation or anything that's anti-inflammatory action, yeah, sure, I was on some medications for a little bit, didn't want to be on them forever. So I thought about what other conservative measures can I trial. And so there are some foods there that don't give you as much of an inflammatory response. And so apart from really good physical rest, so I didn't run, I didn't play sport, I switched up my training program. So I did body weight training at home, and I did low impact, but cardio work on a stationary bike.
Is that why you're doing the same at the moment?
Yeah, so I still do that. I'm not a big runner or anything right now still.
Still worried about the concussion.
And so mental rest, physical rest, and then any anti-inflammatory action, okay, would be my top 3 things to do with dealing with concussion. Obviously, seek medical attention. Go speak to your doctor. Generally, this is within the realm of a neurologist, so someone that specializes in the brain and nervous pathways. The forefront of concussion management is really coming to the fore now. Everyone's on board, people are a lot more aware, which is great to see. And sometimes in lower grade suburban sport, or sometimes in kids footy or kids age group sport, they still kind of gloss over the head knocks. I would treat them all quite seriously. Okay, I haven't been there and experienced it myself. So hope those 3 points of self-management can help you guys, but always seek medical attention. Cool.
So the third injury that I discussed was my knees, and that was sort of my current injury that I'm still dealing with. So I started up to see a PT or a strength and conditioning coach, just to further my technique, because I felt like it was more so the technique that I was more letting me down, because it was very neat. So knee was only sore when I did stuff, so squatting especially, whereas it was fine every other day, but in early days it was always sore, so constant even at night, so that's when I did it initially. But at the moment, so what I've noticed, I'm very dominant in my hip flexors, so the front of my leg and my knee when I squat, and I'm not using my glutes or hips as much. So that's what I'm working on. So trying to do a lot of activation. So if you can see the activation posts that I put up in the blog post, that'll be really good to have a look at for you guys, because I use all of them, incorporate them, just use a heavier resistance, and then I do my squatting, and it's made a big difference. It just tells my brain to not squat with my knees and push my hips out a little bit more back, and I can actually sit deeper in my squat as well, which is good. And so the other day I squatted with no knee pain at all, just because I did the activation stuff, did a bit of stuff on to relieve my tendons in my knee. So that's probably discuss that a little bit further. So if you do have more tendon issues in your knee, and you feel, and whenever you do stuff, a good tool that he taught me was to go on the leg extension machine, and then use both legs to go up, and then drop one leg and hold this one for 10 seconds, and then the other leg comes back and take it down to halfway, hold for 10 seconds with the single leg, and drop it all the way, then come back up, and then you do the same again. Repeat that 5 times on that leg, and then you do the same on the other leg. That's just what it does. It just sort of releases the tensile forces in your bone. So imagine at the moment when you get that tendon kind of injuries, it's very noodly like. All that does is just sort of straightens that noodles out, and it just then that helped a lot, especially since I've done that, and I did that today as well, which was good. So it's just a quick tip for you guys to try out and see if that helps with your knee pain a little bit, if it feels more like the lower, just below the kneecap kind of pain.
Cool. So that's it, guys. We just gave you some management tools and tricks for our top 3 injuries that we reported on last time. So that's our season 1, episode 8 done. Just want to give another big shout out to the Dirty Stash. All right, so I'm not sure if Harvey's going to do one of these sort of twirly things.
Want to get some of these.
So yeah, let us know if you think that there's a good stash style that Harvey should be rocking. But that'll do us, guys. Making healthy simple. We'll see you next time.
Catch ya.